Today we're going to be talking about the CrinEar Daybreak. Let's get into it. Overall, I really like the design. Just a simple CrinEar Daybreak, black and silver. I think this looks really nice. Nozzle is 5.9 millimeters at its widest point. This does have a bit of a custom kind of shape here. You'll either love that or you'll hate that. Me personally, I didn't have fit problems with this IEM, but this could impact your fit and comfort. But again, I got kind of big ears, and me personally, I didn't find this to be a problem. Ear hooks are comfortable enough, no real issues here. Got a slider, and then interchangeable termination. This is a 3.5 and you get a 4.4. The cable is well behaved. As you can see here, it does what I tell it to do. No tangle, no memory. Awesome. That is honestly half the battle. When it comes to build and accessories, just having a cable that acts nice is a huge plus. Comes with some silicone tips as well as foam tips. Both are nice. I personally found that I like the Dunu SNS tips with this IEM myself. Those kind of just brought the treble to a point where, I don't know, they're very enjoyable for my ears. The case is quite nice as well. I like the size. It is a bit bulky, not really pocketable per se, but magnetic latch. And I like this, I like the size because you don't have to super tightly wind up the IEM. It just fits nicely in the case. It is feeling like it feels like it's going to be protected. I like this case. Anyways, that all aside, how do these sound? Overall, I get this out of the way right now. I think they're excellent. I'm going to try my best to hype check myself a little bit here, but I really do like this IEM. I think it is a very solid product. The build and accessories as well as the sound. Starting with the bass. The bass is impactful. It is engaging. There's enough of it that bass guitar is feeling like it feels filled in, and the rhythm section like bass drum, tom, stuff like that, it has enough soul, like it has enough groove that I can actually get into the music. Like it feels like I can, it makes me want to dance a little, and that is huge for me. Like having a bass, like amount of bass and a quality of bass where I actually want to get into the music is huge. So yeah, the bass is actually pretty good on these. The mids are very clean, very clean, but not like overly sterile, you know what I'm saying? But they're clean. And then you get into the upper mids, and that's where my nitpicks kind of lie. I do wish there was like just a few decibels less in the upper mids in that ear gain section. I applied 2 EQ filters. That's all I required. One at 1.7 kilohertz and one at 3 kilohertz. And that alone was enough to just kind of make this IEM sing. It made this IEM basically to a point where I was like, heck, like this could be, end game for a lot of people. It's kind of a, whatever term, but with those 2 EQ filters, I was very, very pleased. Even without the EQ filters, they sound great, but me personally, my personal preference is I like a lot of bass. I don't love a lot of upper mids. And this was it's just bordering too much for me. Without EQ. With EQ, I was able to get it to a place where I was like, excellent. And then the treble. Now, that's what surprised me about this IEM. So it's a micro-planar tweeter, I guess, in this thing. And usually with micro-planar IEMs, like the IEMs that use micro-planars for the treble, it's usually spicy. And it requires foam tips. I'm trying to think of an example of a micro-planar IEM that I'm like, yeah, I don't need foam tips. I think every single micro-planar IEM I've tried, I need foam tips. This IEM, I do not require foam tips with the micro-planars. That was surprising to me. So it kind of goes to show that, yeah, you don't have to, like, if you use micro-planars, you don't have to make it like overly spicy. You can do it in a way that's pretty enjoyable. With foam tips, it's almost like too smooth, and that's where I found the SNS tips really kind of brought the treble to life. Without EQ, I was finding that like there's just too much upper mids for how much treble there was. I don't know. So when I switched the SNS tips, it kind of brought it to a place where that felt more balanced for me. And then again, with EQ, it just kind of brought everything together. And all I required were those 2 EQ filters, and excellent. Funny enough, the 2 EQ filters I added to this kind of brings it to like around the dusk level with the DSP settings. So I found that kind of interesting. So that just kind of goes to show that the dusk is still an excellent IEM. But that said, at this price, and if you have PEQ available to you, I would say this is the better buy. Like, this is actually, in my opinion, a nice sounding IEM. The accessory package is good enough. Like, the dusk, yes, it had a more luxurious unboxing experience per se, but I do think that this accessory package is just as, if not more, usable. And if you apply some EQ filters to kind of give it dusk-like, I think I actually almost prefer this IEM in my personal opinion. So yeah, that was interesting. Overall, like, just to quickly talk about this versus the Meta. Now, I have to admit, I don't own the Meta. I wish I owned the Meta. I wish I had bought it when I had the chance, but I didn't, and I am kind of regretting it. This compared to the Meta, when I kind of, think about it, it's weird because I was expecting to like the Meta more than this, but I think I like this more than the Meta. I think it comes down to just the bass and treble balance. The Meta, to me personally, like, yeah, even though the Meta's upper mids were more to my liking, the bass was just almost too clean, and the treble felt almost too boosted in the whole balance of things. The Daybreak feels much more balanced, in my opinion. So I actually think this is the better tuned IEM of the two. And I actually think this is easier to EQ than the Meta. So overall, I actually think this is the better IEM. And if I were to rate this IEM, I would kind of put it probably around A, which is pretty solid. There's not a lot, like, if you look at my tier list, there's very few IEMs that are in like A plus, S, whatever. I would put this in A. With EQ, I would put it in the A plus. So with those 2 EQ filters, that's all it takes. 2 EQ filters, and I put it in the A plus. But without EQ, yeah, I would call this a solid A. It's solid. It's not quite an S for me. There are very few IEMs. I don't know. Like, I think there's only 1 or 2 IEMs that I would say is like S or close for me personally. And that's just down to preference. Again, I like not a lot of upper mids. I like a ton of bass. So, but that said, it is a solid IEM. Like, I can't not recommend this IEM. I think it's an overall a good buy. Under $200, it's excellent. And I think it's $170 US. I think that's very competitive. I think it's actually a solid buy, and for under $200, it might be a go-to recommendation at this point. Yeah, it's actually like really solid. And again, because I like more bass and I like less upper mids than the average person, I think this is a safer recommendation than a lot of my normal recommendations. This is actually a really solid recommendation, an easy recommendation. So overall, I think it's a good product. Yeah, I cannot recommend it. So if you have any questions for me, leave them in the comments down below. Like, comment, subscribe, and until next time,